Okay, thanks everybody. 7 minutes on circular economy, and here we go. So my name is Daniel. I run a platform called Warpit. I'm calling you from Whitby today in the northeast of Yorkshire, and I'm going to talk to you for 7 minutes about circular economy and how that might look by 2050 using digital. So I don't know what the education level around circular economy is in the audience, so bear with me if you know this already. Everything we do, everything we purchase, everything we procure, the way we do it will change in the next, from now to the next 20 years, because resources are running out and resources are getting more expensive to get out of the ground. So what I'm going to talk about, it's all about the resilience of the supply chain, the resilience of the community, and it's actually about business continuity. That is keeping business as we know it going, capitalism going, by recirculating the resources that are within the system. Okay, so we currently mainly operate on what's called a linear economy, where we extract resources, assets from the ground, and manufacture, sell them, use them, and then they're ditched. So, for example, I said to my kids a little while ago, can you think of anything that you have in your bedrooms and in the house that didn't come from the earth? And so Ellie said, well, plastic. Well, no, it came from the earth. Explain the procedure. Books. Well, they came from the earth. They're from trees and all that sort of thing. So that's our linear economy. And by the way, Finley, my 7-year-old, he said, moon rocks. And I was like, you haven't got a moon rock in your bed. He's like, yeah, but they don't come from the earth. Anyway, so that's the linear economy. That's mainly how we operate at the moment. The alternative is that we have a circular economy where we circulate the value that we pulled out of the ground and the value that they have already. And we circulate that and we use that to underpin the economy. In the middle there, we've got the recycling economy. And what that means is, you recycle your glass, you recycle your plastic, and that generally gets recycled a few times, or once or twice, or maybe 9 times, but then it always ends up in the bin anyway. Okay, so you got the linear economy, you got the recycling economy, and then you have this thing called the circular economy, and that's what we're transitioning to now and over the coming years. So there's 2 aspects to the circular economy. There's the biological side and there's a technical side. Well, the best example of the biological side, really, you can think of this like a compost heap, yeah, and you can think of it like if you grow your own, or if you've got an allotment, or someone that does, that's a perfect example of a biological circular economy, whereby you put new compost out at the start of the growing season, you grow your plants, you use your plants to eat or medicine or whatever it might be, and then you put the waste back in the compost heap, and those nutrients are circulated year on year, and you get your food out. Okay, and then you can think of the technical side, kind of like this Astrid, who spoke 2 sessions ago about tech buyback, I think it was called. That's where you've got a laptop or whatever, comes to the end of its first life, you return it to the manufacturer. They then either pull it apart and make it into new parts, or upgrade it, or put new software on, or whatever, and that goes back into circulation. So there's two sides to the circular economy. There's biological side, and then there's a more technical side where it's man-made, synthetic, or technical materials, and that's all powered by renewable energy. Yeah, so it's all clean in one system, everything's circulating, and you can continue carrying on with that system. Okay, so these are the different models of circularity, and these are also opportunities. A lot of these are, well, all of these are massively under served, apart from maybe the recycling side of things. So if there's any entrepreneurs in the audience, this is, if you put some energy into this, you're gonna have some good business out of this. For anybody who owns an existing business or is part of an organization, this is about tweaking how you do things at the moment. So you need to move from the linear procurement model to some of these models, okay? So recycling, obviously, I think we all know recycling. You know, you take a material like plastic bottles, you take it into a plant, you separate it out, and you make more plastic out of it. You've got repair. So, you know, in our business unit, in my where our business is, there's a TV repairman, right? And he's about to retire. He can't sell his business, and he's just missing out because in the next 5 to 10 years, repair's going to go massive. Okay, that is, you know, extending the lifespan of existing assets by repairing them. Okay, there's a lovely example actually from Patagonia, who are an outdoor company. If you don't know, they've got a thing called the repair van, and they actually drive around, go to different conurbations. And if you've got Patagonia gear, and actually any other gear as well, you can take your stuff to the Patagonia repair van and they'll repair it for you, okay? Ben mentioned right at the start, there's a phone company called Fairphone. They do an upgrade model whereby you buy, you lease the actual phone, and they will upgrade modular parts of that phone as technology improves. You've got modularity whereby, you know, you might buy a chair from someone like Steelcase, and you keep that chair, but Steelcase will upgrade that chair as technology improves, or they'll improve the gas strut if it repairs, or they'll reupholster the seating area if that fails. You've also got durability, which is kind of like, you know, nothing new, you know, making stuff that lasts, you know, so oak furniture, for example. You've got leasing models, that's fairly well known, you know, the famous example of the Canon photocopier, that's a leasing model. Deposit, you know, you put a deposit down for the actual asset and return it at the end of its first life, so that the manufacturer keeps the manufacturer keeps ownership of the asset. Sharing, I'll come on to that. Resource trade, I'll come on to that as well. So they're the basic models that you can find around the circular economy. And if you think about any tangible asset that you use or that you buy, you know, you can imagine how they might fit within one of those models, okay, going forward. And there's loads of examples of circular business models already. You know, circular economy is nothing new. You know, you just think about, you know, someone who's come to the forefront in the last few weeks is the local milkman. You know, he's disappeared from life in the last 15 years because of supermarkets price competitiveness. You know, well, actually now he's coming back in because he's local and he can actually supply milk better than the supermarket can, because people can't get out. That's a circular business. You know, he's reusing his materials. So there's loads of circular businesses that you can look into who have adopted circular models. Talked about Patagonia, but there's loads of others. Alexis mentioned Tesla earlier. There's also, you know, obviously battery rental and all that sort of thing. So I'm not going to really go into that much detail. What I do, I run a thing called Warpit, and Warpit allows customers to swap and trade surplus assets with each other within their organisations. So over the last 8 weeks, you know, we've been helping the NHS find surplus assets within other customer base like universities and councils and central government. What we do is we set up organisational level platforms so that staff can trade surplus assets, and those organisations can link up with other organisations in the town or the city and share surplus assets across organisational boundaries. So that's circular because we're extending the lifespan of those assets. So they've got life one with the one organisation, and they might have life two and life three and life four going down, cascading through that network. So the future of circular with regards to digital over the next 20 years is, you know, we need to be able to track and identify all of these parts, all of these components, like what Astrid talked about. We need to be able to track these assets as well. So for example, if you work in a large council and you've got IT, you know, that IT will start to be able to communicate with the manufacturer saying that, you know, this part needs upgrading, or, you know, you need to upgrade to a new bit of software or whatever it might be. So we need these software products to be able to manage all of that. We need to be able to remove the technical barriers. So for example, that Patagonia repair van, you know, you can't have a repair van moved around different estates, repairing different products. You know, you need to sort of use software to take away those barriers. We're going to have a whole wave of legacy assets that don't have Internet of Things attached, that can't communicate with the manufacturers. So there needs to be solutions built around that as well. And also you need to make these systems local. You know, like we talked about that local milkman and that supply chain. We need to be able to localize that whole supply chain as well. And that's to do with food, communications, assets. So there's loads of challenges around what digital solutions can provide. Okay. I've gone over 10 minutes, so very quick. I'll finish very quickly to summarize. So this circular economy is all about the manufacturer really keeping that asset in use, and the owner of the asset keeping that asset in use for as long as possible to maximize the value. So that means that those assets need to take on a lease rent model, or upgrades, or product take back. The owner of the asset needs to expand the use of that asset as long as possible to keep that value in circulation. A lot of these things that we're talking about are not new solutions. You know, circular economy has been going for a very long time. And the big thing to know is, you know, resources and raw materials are going to get more and more expensive as they get more challenging to extract. And that obviously gives anyone who adopts circular economy principles a competitive edge going forward. And that's me wrapped up in 11 minutes 21. And now I'll go to questions. Astrid is asking, how far away from a functioning circular economy? Good question. I was thinking about this earlier. If you think about how digital has changed in the last 20 years, from, you know, the internet in the mid 90s to early 2000s becoming mainstream, you know, I think it's going to be 15, 20 years before we can circularize everything, you know, and that starts off now with good examples like what you do, Astrid, and what we do, and making that mainstream. And we start with the legacy. We start with the legacy products that are already out there. And, you know, the challenge now is for designers to start to build circularity into how the products are designed. So, you know, design for circularity, that's where the big growth area is. So, you know, if you're teaching that now in university, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to come through to being available on the shelves. And then, you know, then it'll still be a little bit niche. So, you know, 15 to 20 years, I think. Gemma's asking, how much do you see this as a pure manufacturing play, and how much is ecosystem with service arms doing repair? Do you see this as developing over time? Yeah, what you've got, you know, you've got different silos at the moment, all working, you know, I wouldn't say separately, but there's some collaboration. But you've got, you know, you've got a whole reuse sector who are dealing with legacy assets, who aren't even thinking about the design, you know. And then you've got the design people who are sort of actually, you know, that's not mainstream, that's super niche still. So that needs to be sort of, the case studies need to come out, they need to do the business case, and they need to do the mainstreaming of it all. And then, you know, within all that, right, like someone mentioned about, you know, the rail infrastructure, you've actually got lots of other software products shooting off trying to do the infrastructure thing. So you know, it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but I'm sure it'll all start to integrate through APIs and different apps and all that sort of thing. Robbie, question from Robbie: how extensively is Warpit currently working in Leeds with the university and the council, etc.? Thank you, Gemma, for giving me an opportunity to talk about my own product. So in Leeds, I'd say it's okay. You know, you've got the universities on it. Leeds Beckett have just left. You've got the ambulance service on it. You've got all the NHS trusts on Warpit in Leeds already. You haven't got the council on it. And you know, this is just an organisational thing. So I'd say, you know, Leeds hasn't got too far to go from an infrastructure point of view to getting, you know, something like the slide I showed earlier. But you know, it's not just about infrastructure, is it? It's about culture change. And you know, from a culture change point of view, you've got an absolute mountain to climb. Question from Colin: Do you think the government, etc., focus on marketing, drive to focus on recycling, will deter the public from considering the circular economy system, use, reuse, repair? I've always said recycling should not be a householder thing. It's got to be an infrastructure thing. Yeah. The householder's got too much to deal, the normal householder has got too much to deal with. And that's why it's taken recycling, 20 years to get where it is, So I think this has all got to be dealt with in an infrastructure lens rather than a householder lens. So I hope that answers that question. Gemma, Daniel, do you see a space for RFID, chips and furniture? Yes, that's got to happen in I think, the majority of assets. So as that price comes down, that will then enable the circular economy much more, because once you've got the communication between the asset and other parties, that's when you get the remanufacturing, the repair, the upgrading all coming into play.